Welcome to the BoshNRoll channel. If you want to support my daily Eternal Magic offerings while getting amazing perks like the BoshNRoll Discord community, have me play your deck on the channel, or listen sideboard guides before tournaments, check out the Patreon or YouTube membership program. This channel is possible because of these amazing sponsors. Check them out, all their links are in the video description. As always, thanks for being here. Let's go play some Magic. Welcome back to the BoshNRoll channel. Today I'm doing something a little different. Although this deck is entirely in my wheelhouse, this is 5-color Beanstalk from Eternal Weekend Japan. The Blue Soup Beanstalk decks absolutely crushed Eternal Weekend Japan, with boasting a 62% win rate overall in the field, and they had 70+% win rate against Team Delver, which just won the Eternal Weekend in Europe the week before, which is the exact opposite of what happened in Prague at Eternal Weekend Europe, where these bean soup decks were just terrible and did not perform very well against the field at all. But this is the type of deck I want to play if it's good. And for that, with Eternal Weekend right around the corner, I'm releasing this after Eternal Weekend, but I'm recording it before. I am having a targeted testing session with Magic Online grinder and deck brewer Pokemoki. Pokemoki will be playing the Sultai Beanstalk deck that he's been working on. Not sure what the best way to put this on the screen is. The text isn't very appealing to look at, but you can see the whole list here. Visual grid looks lovely, but you can't see the whole deck at one time, but we'll do it like this. Sultai Beanstalk, a deck that I have liked in the past. I recorded on the channel over a month ago, the first time Pokemoki showed it to me. I played it at a local Legacy event. Pokemoki has won a Legacy challenge with it. I have been messaging back and forth with Pokemoki the entire Eternal Weekend season, offering my insights while he does the real down and dirty testing. I have a job to do. I got to release a different video every day. Pokemoki just has to prep for one tournament. So it's nice to have both my giant zoomed out bird's eye view of the format and his nitty gritty individual card choice. Look at this stuff. 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Stifle. He's been really in the trenches doing the work. And he requested that I run this deck, or we run this deck versus 4 or 5-color beans to test the final flex slots. Stuff like, is Turok Dreadcantor actually good? Do we need a Force of Vigor in the sideboard to answer things like beans and Leyline Binding, which there currently is not one? Do we need both of these Surgical Extraction since graveyard decks generally did pretty bad across both Eternal Weekends? Could we cut a Surgical Extraction to make room for the Force of Vigor, but then we're softer to those decks if we do bear into them? And ultimately, can this deck beat the dedicated, go over the top 4 and 5-color bean decks as just a 3-color bean deck itself? Those are the questions we are trying to shed some light on today. And I will be playing the bad guy, which is the 5-color bean soup deck. This list somehow has everything in it. I'm impressed that they fit all these cards into the deck. I've been talking about the 4 and 5-color bean mana base lately, and it's like, well, if you get basics, you don't really get Wasteland, and if you play Wasteland, then you don't really get Mystic Sanctuary, and somehow we've got a Plains, an Island, a Wasteland, and a Mystic Sanctuary in this mana base. And this isn't a 4-color deck that has a Xander's Lounge, so you could play Leyline Binding for less. This is actually a 5-color deck. There are spells with mana pips of every color in the deck. It's core banned with 4 Orcish Bowmaster, 1 Forth Eorlingas, and then you got some red and black cards in the sideboard, so there is a core to the deck. But you are actually trying to spend mana of every color. Having a Wasteland, a Bayou, a Plains, and a Savannah that don't turn on Mystic Sanctuary, that's a lot of that. I'll be keeping an eye on that. This list was successful, though. Clearly, it works. This doesn't really need to be stress tested because multiple copies of this made the top 8 in Japan on very similar lists. One of them went all the way up to Yorion and had a bunch of One Rings and stuff. There were 2 lists that were just a few cards different from each other. That looked like this one. I just picked the one that I liked better because it has Life from the Low Minute. The other one didn't. Terminus. Just multiple main deck creature sweepers, which is something people asked me about for my 4-color St. Catherine Dark Band Beans that I played at Eternal Weekend Prague. This deck is just like, I don't want to lose to creatures. 4 plows, 2 Terminus, 4 bindings. The fairy can bounce them. Uro can grind through them. Bowmaster can kill the little stuff. I'm slightly concerned about this deck's combo matchup, but people don't play a lot of combo in paper. So maybe this is brilliant. I don't know. I'm going to jump in and play some matches versus Pokemoki, and then we can see how this matchup feels and see how we like this 5-color bean deck and how we like the 3-color Sultai bean deck. Let's check it out. The official BoshNRoll Island Ponder Keep shirt is available exclusively through Coalesce Apparel. This Magic Player-owned business is a staple of our community. They keep this channel on the air, and it's my pleasure to partner with them for this product. Coalesce is the best Magic apparel on the market. They have awesome new designs coming out all the time. Use code BoshNRoll to get 10% off your order, only at coalesceapparel.shop. We're here for match number 1, and I am going to treat these games, at least the game ones, like I don't know the whole list. And he has told me he does have Leovold and Force of Vigor in the list right now, which is slightly different than the list I showed you that he sent me yesterday. But like I said, we're testing cards here. I would keep this hand in the blind. It interacts with a creature, and then Uro is kind of the reason for the season here. This is why we are in a deck like this. Don't love Terminus in my opening hand. Okay, now Orcish Bowmasters, I can do multiple things. And Plow and Orc. And he is a Wasteland deck. More Wastelands than there are Stifles. You know, like I kept the hand pretending I didn't know what the matchup was, but we are testing a matchup specifically, and all these spicy one-ofs, the Stifle, the Spell Pierce, all those are things that are really hard to play around because you have to respect them if you know about even one of them, but then, like, what are you going to do about it? You're just never going to fetch about one Stifle. Luckily, my hand is chock full of lands. Okay, he's got mana up for his own Bowmaster here, so I'm not going to try to snipe this Ponder. I think in the Bowmaster mirrors, especially the Bowmaster Control mirrors, it's really about kind of waiting and picking your spot on that, so your Bowmaster can interact appropriately. This Beanstalk is a nice one. How do the lands work in this deck? If I fetch Volcanic Island now, I'll be missing Plains and Swamp. There's no Scrubland. If I fetch Underground Sea now, I'd be missing Plateau, which doesn't exist. So if I fetch Bayou, then I'd be missing... That's the same as Underground Sea. Okay. We're not going to get 5 land types here without help of Xander's Lounge. Savannah plus Lounge is 5. I could get the Savannah and play Beanstalk, or I could just commit to drawing this out over more turns than this. I think I do still want the Savannah accessible to me, though. But if I do that, then plowing becomes harder. Okay, I'm going to get the Underground Sea and play Beanstalk. Okay, there's a Daze. If I get blown out by Stifle here, that's going to suck pretty bad. Yep, okay. The one Stifle and one of the 2 Dazes are both here in the hand. And that's part of the power of this deck. Like, there's 2 Dazes in the deck. It's not like playing it around it all the time out of Delver. Now I'm getting Wastelanded. Yikes. I got walked right into this. Maybe I was supposed to just wait, hit land number 4, play this Orc around Daze. But we are in the spot where something like Light from the Loam just breaks the game open. Lore Revealed was a great find. This list has 3 Wastelands and 2 Witherbloom commands to loop them. That's kind of a lot of Wastelands to navigate. Ugh. Getting me with the drain mode and picking up a land here. There's the Wasteland. I'm going to cycle my Lorien Revealed. And I'm actually out of black sources other than Xander's Lounge. I think I just get a Tundra here, fetch Trop, and try to rebuild after that. Yep, there's that. That lets me fetch the Xander's Lounge now. And then I have black for Bowmaster. I don't have green currently. Sick. Always had it. Even after all these exchanges, we do both have 6 cards in hand, and we both have 2 lands in play. And nobody's actually presented a draw engine or a threat yet. But we're kind of navigated this double Wasteland Stifle Daze start pretty well, actually. Jeez, another Witherbloom command. Tough. Oh, I'm about to get wasted again. I will throw out the Bowmaster here, because it's just time to start doing literally anything. and I will soon be out of mana. Okay, here we go. I have hidden my green source, which is the one that casts Life from the Loam. Brainstorm. Okay. I'm going to Brainstorm now, while I can't get Bowmastered. I don't need this Terminus in the mix, and I don't need this other Uro currently. Unfortunately, I have to expose my green source to Wasteland, but I gotta keep things going here. Basic Island Terminus. I'm going to shuffle this. The Basic Island's kind of tempting, but I'd rather find Life from the Loam and really get it going. I am at 13 life just from my fetches and Witherbloom command pings. But all of this small ball stuff, although it didn't lock me out of the game, it has gotten me to a point where my Bowmaster is just hanging out there. Yeah, I'm going to play basic planes and just attack here. And now I have to decide if I think there's a Bowmaster over there or not. And even if there is, I have the plow. Let's force some action. Ooh, had to force of will that. That's actually sick for me. That's a really good sign. That's the first interaction of this game that wasn't just unilaterally awesome for him. My Savannah is still in my deck. I just have to map out where I can, if I can get a white source if I don't play this Tundra. And then I play Uro. I'm going to attack first. A 3 mana. This looks like Murderous Cut. And it is indeed Murderous Cut. Another 2-for-1 that I just racked up there. That's good. And it's time to drop the Uro. This is where we really start pulling ahead here. I still have 2 answers in my hand to a Murktide Regent, which is the card I would be otherwise worried about at this point. And Uro is active next turn because of the Savannah in my deck. There's your Mystic Sanctuary, targeting Lorien Revealed. Okay. I'm going to spend a turn loading up here, and then I play Uro, and we see where we go from there. Land number 5, 1 card left in hand that we don't know about. Fortunately, can't interact with that. And you'd really need Force Blue card to stop what I'm about to present. Savannah is here. I can play a land, and then Uro. I have Life from the Loam and Mystic Sanctuary in my deck. I don't need like a million lands in my graveyard, just some. And I'm going to leave all my spells there too. I could fetch Mystic Sanctuary now and draw the Ponder or the Lorien Revealed. I think I'd rather just take a raw rip from Uro here. Then I can make decisions next turn. Okay, Uro has resolved versus a non-white deck. This is going to be annoying for them to have to work through. And my graveyard is still stacked. What is the actual land count in my deck? 20, plus the 2 Lorien Revealeds. Children's Edict, non-token creature. Okay, well, I only have 1 of those. And I think I'm just going to draw a card again. Replay Uro. I'm going to crack my Misty Rainforest first. If I use my last black source, I think that's okay. It's also a green source. Right, I'm exiling most of my lands, and then Ponder and Brainstorm. I still have Lorien Revealed that I can hit with the Mystic Sanctuary. Force pitching Daze. Okay. Not bad. And now I'm just lined up for grabbing Lorien Revealed and firing it, and I can just kill a Bowmaster in response if that's the last card over there. I like my position a lot. Yeah, okay. He agrees. So what happened there is there was a lot of squeeze early in the game, and then I just did not get squeezed, and then he never got a draw engine, never cast a Murktide Regent. I like that. A Carpet of Flowers, since Mana Denial is a large part of the deck. Fluster Storm, I like. Dress Down doesn't really matter. I don't think I want Surgical. It's not an Uro deck. Veil of Summer is kind of interesting. And I guess if all your removal is Murderous Cuts, and then you have to Force of Will Uros because you don't have good answers to it, and Witherbloom Command and everything. Okay, yeah, Veil's good. Do I think this is a 1 Force of Will situation? Probably. What am I worried about countering? And do I want Pernicious Deed? That can sweep up his Beanstalks and a bunch of stuff if he gets under me. But it also kills my Beanstalks if I am ahead. I think it's still worth having more sweepers in. I am the control deck in this matchup. I'm going to try this plan. 2 lands, 1 of them's a fetch. Double Leyline Binding in the opening grip kind of sucks, but I have a Brainstorm here. I can fetch basic if I'm just worried about Wasteland early on. Ponder. Okay. Did not shuffle. Yuck. Yeah, unfortunately, being on the play, he gets to Bowmaster my Brainstorm if I wait, but if I Brainstorm now, I might end up locked. We're going to see a Beanstalk here. The first resolved Beanstalk of the match between the two decks that play 8 between them. Yes, indeed. Okay. I am not able to fight this, and suddenly, last game, no draw engine ever materialized for my opponent, and that's why we're able to win with Uro eventually, but that's a nice one. I think I want to fetch and Brainstorm now, and just see if I can find another fetch. Cool, we got there. Xander's Lounge and Mystic Sanctuary into the deck, and I could just fetch basic planes right now. I hate being such a coward about one Stifle in the deck, but it would also destroy me here, so I will do what I can. And if we were playing blind, like if I didn't have the list, this fucking guy. Right, yeah, if I didn't have the list, then I would have gotten Stifled game 1 and had no idea that it's a 1-of. Okay, I can... Leyline Binding is kind of a great answer to Leovold because it doesn't target on cast. So if he's going to Force of Will this, then you don't get the bonus card. Because normally, like, if I Swords to Plowshares Leovold, you draw a card, then you can force it. There's a Wasteland taking me off green and black all of a sudden. Ooh, Forth Eorlingas, very interesting. I'm just going to send an Uro in. And this is into Daze, it's into Bowmaster, but all those things, that's the kind of the whole strength of Uro, always has been. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'd rather my card just work, but the downside is not that low. Uro has resolved. Let's see if it gets Bowmaster. Let's see if it gets... Okay, there's stifling the ETB trigger. I don't get the extra land here. That's an interesting way to use Stifle. I don't think it's wrong. It's just a curious one. Oh, okay. Suddenly it all makes sense. If you don't want me to have more lands, so you can resolve your Winter Orb, I understand. And then Murktide to... Okay, alright, that was a great setup. I believe now. And I only have 3 land types right now, and the Tundra in my hand does not add another one. I'm going to untap my Plains, so I'll play this Tundra, and just pass the turn, it's all I can do. Ugh, Wasteland, yuck. Oh, that might be even worse than Wastelanding me. Having 2 Beanstalks. Now if they force my Leyline Binding, I'm just completely in the trash. Okay, that was a great find. That makes my Leyline Binding less painful. I'm going to tap the red source and try to get it off the radar for the Wasteland. Okay, had the Force of Will here, now we're just destroyed. That was my answer to the Murktide. It was my chance to stabilize this board, but we're seeing the play pattern that this deck wants to have, which is Force of Will everything with 1 threat in play. Wasting my green. I'm going to cycle Lorien Revealed. Guess I get Underground Sea here. Ponder. I can try to Ponder and find Swords to Plowshares. I think I just have to do that. Bean, Veil, or Bean, Brainstorm, Veil, that's not it. Shuffle a Library. Mystic Sanctuary does not solve any of my current problems. Neither does Bowmaster. There's an Uro. I can gain 3 life and maybe get another turn here. Green, blue, colorless. This Uro trigger could draw Plow or Leyline Binding and at least give me a chance to play the game. I can't actually use this fetch land because I'm dead on board, but that is another draw. Now he's got 2 mana up and can Bowmaster me from 1 just at his leisure. Or Witherbloom command me out right now. Okay, we're dead. Okay, so 2 powerful sideboard cards in Leovold and Winter Orb, plus getting the full draw engine up underneath. And I identified myself as the control deck, and he identified himself as the aggro deck for this matchup, so he's still got all his forces in. I cut all of mine. Maybe that's wrong. I mean, Pernicious Deed does kill Leovold, Winter Orb, and any number of means. I still think that like the Carpets and Veils are probably better than Force, big picture, in the matchup. Yeah, I'm going to try it like this again. Forceless. Down and dirty. There is a Force of Vigor in my sideboard. I probably should have brought this in after seeing the Winter Orb. I don't think Beans is enough, but Winter Orb is probably enough to break the tie and want that in my deck. My hand is solid. I have a turn 2 Beanstalk. Please just cast Ponder. Alright, cool. Not interested in getting blown out by the 1-of Stifle. I am going to go Xander's Lounge Savannah for the perfect domain. Just try to leverage my position from the play here. This can't get dazed, but if he's on 0 lands to my 2, I'm okay with that position as well. And the bean just got in. That's nice. Carpet of Flowers. That's a tough one on both sides. Luckily, Savannah, not an island. And I can just Leyline Bind the carpet, draw a card. I think that's a good use of that. Blue in the pool, has the land. Just gonna Bowmaster here. Yep, okay. Okay. I've been Bowmastered. I'm gonna start by plowing Bowmaster, because I would like to draw more cards this turn. Cycle Luring Revealed for Tundra. I have the domain elsewhere. I'm free to fire this. My hand's full of white removal. I don't mind using this on Carpet of Flowers at all. Through both Terminuses this early. Not where you want to see those. Got your own Beanstalk? Okay. So we've got a war. Wasteland can take out Xander's Lounge and collapse, kind of what I'm doing. Except that it doesn't, because I could just play Underground Sea and be mostly right back under it. I'm extremely worried about Force of Vigor for my opponent, though. Oh, not anymore. Underground Sea, Leyline Binding, draw a card, take out the Beanstalk. Okay, I've drawn way more cards. I have 45 cards left in my deck to opponent's 48. Do I think Flusterstorm will find a better target than this Brainstorm right now? I'm going to hit it. I am worried about Force of Vigor, and Flusterstorm was my best answer to that, but also opponent is kind of floundering over there. Wasteland's going to hit my C. I guess going after green is an option here too. They both take a pip off, and green is probably more important to the core of the deck. Alright, decided to go after black. Another Binding, which I can just barely cast. Ponder is going to have to resolve. Ponder is worse than Brainstorm in this spot, so I'm glad I countered the correct one. I don't think I fluster a Ponder last turn, but I did fluster the Brainstorm. I'm going to take 1 from this Orc army, just in case there is a scary permanent second main. Okay. Wasting me off black, paying dividends. I've finally missed a land drop in the match. Now, he knows the Getting's good for Witherbloom Command. Witherbloom Command is actually super jacked up because it kills my Beanstalk, then Wastelands me too. And found a Brainstorm. Alright, we're falling behind here. Cycling Lorien Revealed to both hit a land drop and clear the Brainstorm cards. I'm going to take 1 from this. Please play a Murktide. Couldn't be that lucky. I really don't want to plow this, because if I just find a fetch land, I'm in business. Instead, I found more black cards. Alright. Okay, new Bowmaster. I am going to plow this. That's not allowed to just be around. I'm terrified of Wasteland here, but if I draw a fetch land, I'm back in business. Got land number 5, which can be Mystic Sanctuary and pick up that Lorien Revealed for next turn. This is a big turn to find my black mana. Murktide Regent leaving the Wastelands, Lorien Revealed, and Brainstorm in the graveyard. Burrow. I think I just bind the Murktide. It gets dazed, but I would like to draw now in case I find a land I can play. You got the Mystic Sanctuary. If this is Daze and he gets to Lorien Revealed twice over the next 2 turns, that's going to be so fucked. If that makes Murktide bigger. Oh no! It's there. He's got it. Can even hardcast, or I guess if you hardcast the Daze, you don't get Mystic Sanctuary back. But if you get Mystic Sanctuary back, you have to play it to cast Lorien Revealed, because we know what's on top of the deck. It's just, do you want Brainstorm in your Lorien Revealed draw or not? Probably, because that also makes Murktide bigger. That sucks. I do get a draw. Veil of Summer, thanks for showing up. Okay, opponent gets to fire Lorien Revealed this turn, reload on cards. One of them's going to be Brainstorm, and I'm going to be at 1 life. Oh, right, Daze, of course. That's a spell that ends up in the graveyard, too. That's a good one to have in the hand. Alright, I'm at 1. My out here is flipping Terminus, but they're both in my hand. Wasteland actually would have been good last turn, but okay, we are just dead here. Okay, we are between matches 1 and however many we play, and I have Pokemoki on the line here. and we're going to talk about how that just went. And so from my side, or I guess say hi. Let's confirm there's a
How's it
person.
going?
Right. So from my side, this felt like a pretty classic. I'm the control deck and you're the attacking deck. And if I can get out of your squeeze, I win. And game one, you wastelanded me, went 4 or 5 times, and I just kept hitting
I denied
land drops.
5 lands, I think, between Wasteland and Stifle.
Yeah. And I just kept hitting land drops, and then Uro won the game. And you never had a draw engine, you never had a threat, and eventually just ran out of cards. And then the subsequent games, the opposite happened. The Winter Orb was pretty messed up in game 2 after I had to answer Leovold, so it was just like potent card for the matchup into potent card for the matchup. And then game 3, it was you correctly picked off my weird colored lands with your it was a smaller number of wastelands, but I was missing land drops and I couldn't keep domain up under me. And then on that last turn, your last card was just Daze, where even like wasteland, like some colorless source, I think stabilizes that game for me. I mean, you still fire Lorien Revealed on the following turn, but without Murktide there, I'm drawing cards, I'm pulling ahead. And
I agree.
Right. So how did it feel from your side?
Yeah, I think that those games were actually a pretty good example of like the different ways the matchup can play out. Like you said, it's kind of like it's almost like the bug deck is trying to contain some sort of liquid, you know, where it's always on the verge of spilling out and spilling over, and then once it's out, you can't really get it back in. You know, like once Uro is going, I can't really catch up to that in any way. But sometimes the bug deck does establish its card advantage engines before the control deck can. Like you both played 4 Beanstalks, just some percentage of the time the bug deck will have more of them. And then game 3 was, you know, a similar situation where, you know, I think that on the whole, Binding is a much stronger card than Murderous Cut, but it's not free. Like it definitely has some of its downsides, and just picking off both the black sources definitely helped there. And we saw a game where Bug was able to win without an engine, but just, you know, just enough to faint over the finish line, we'll say.
Right, yeah. Murktide Regent flipping the script, I mean, that being a 4 of in your list, a lot of the bean decks are like, they have like 2 of that or whatever in addition to their other stuff they're doing, and you're just like, nope, I got 4. And
this is the one you want, I think, just because well, it's a blue card, and then it kills very quickly, and it synergizes with itself very well, you know, where they grow each other. So it's definitely been performing well for me. There's definitely some times where it's like you draw 2 Murktides and a Murderous Cut, and you don't draw a Witherbloom command, you know, for the help with the self-mill, and that kind of comes back to bite you. But I think on the whole, you want the full 4.
Yeah, you mentioned it being a blue card, which was a texture of the matchup that I identified in our post-board games, because I think I'm supposed to board out many, if not all, of my forces, which is because I have like Veil, Fluster, Carpets, Deed was on my maybe list. Not sure if it's supposed to be in, but it was. And then I don't have Force of Will because that's the cut at that point. And then we get into those board states where maybe we both have a bean, maybe you just do. And you definitely have some critical massive forces in because you're the attacking deck.
Yeah.
And that did feel like, I imagine we're going to play more games, so maybe there's a spot where like you have to force something and I just veil it and then you lose on the spot.
Yeah.
Maybe we see the flip side coming down the lane here, but
yes,
in those games it was like, well, you're tapped out with 4 cards in hand and 2 Beanstalks. I don't think I can win here.
Yeah, I think that you are right that the control deck just has enough things to bring in, and when you don't have the Beanstalk, the forces are kind of bad. And when you do, like when you have 1, it's still just a 1-for-1, you know, and you have to turn a blue card into a random card, which is generally worse because blue is the best color.
objectively.
Yeah. So it's like it's not free, and then when it's bad, it's bad. I think on my end, I just need to hope that the forces line up well. But yeah, sometimes that's just how you get tempoed out, I guess.
Right. In our game one, where we both were just like jockeying for having more than 2 lands in play at any point, and
Yeah.
then I eventually found a Beanstalk, and I was like, okay, this is where he's gonna like Bowmaster me and start applying pressure, and you just forced it instead. I was pretty sure I had won in that on that
Yes.
turn, and like I had a Bowmaster that whole game as well, and I was like, I'm not gonna play my Bowmaster first because then his kills mine, and then
Mhm.
once you had to force my Beanstalk, I was like, oh, we're clear, and just started bashing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
being
recognizing those
sorry, go ahead.
patterns matters a lot.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, I definitely was like, okay, I'm going to use the Witherwind command to get back Wasteland, but I'm not the happiest about it because, if they eventually draw and play a Beanstalk, that's bad for me. However, them getting to the third mana source to potentially play Uro or Teferi or what have you is also not ideal, and I obviously don't know which one's in hand, so um, I think it's like a fine play to make, but then it's like, I used both my commands, and then the Beanstalk came down. It's like, dang it! All right, I guess that's that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I just didn't
yeah.
have the Beanstalk, and when you had to drain me for 2 twice on those commands, I didn't want to get Wastelanded, but also like I had held the
Sinkhole, yeah.
the Bowmaster forever. So
Yes,
like
smart.
the -3/-1 mode just went unspent on both of those commands, and my life
Hmm.
total matters, but like there was a spot where neither of us had ever played a creature, and I was at 13 and you were at 22, and I was like, well, that's actually big against a Murktide deck,
Hmm.
but it's not as good as a card. Those life
Yes,
points will eventually go away.
yes, I agree. It's definitely not as good as a card. Um, I will say this deck uses the Drain 2 on Witherwind like way more often than any other command deck I played, just because it is slightly more aggressive. Another thing you mentioned, you definitely want to be the slightly bigger Bowmaster deck in general, because of that dynamic where because your late game is better, the onus is on me to pressure you. So it's like I'm the one who's more likely to run out a Bowmaster with no target, which is really good for you. um,
Right. And you only have
yeah.
8 ways to actually win the game, and 4 of
Yes.
them die to my 4 Bowmasters.
Yes. Yeah.
If I'm willing or able to be patient about it.
Yeah. That is a good point. That if the list, because I've been talking about the list a little bit more, people can start like dissecting the list and like look for vulnerabilities. And the 8 wing cons is definitely something that if you didn't know the full list, you wouldn't be playing to that out. Not you, I'm just saying like people in general,
Right.
but
Yeah.
because it might be more known at this point, that's something that people can look to target.
Yeah. I did a lot of that in the Is It Delver dominance era, where
Hmm.
it's like they have 12 threats in their deck, and I have like 4 plows, 4 endings, and
Yeah.
then Mystic Sanctuary, and then Supreme Verdict, and you can actually just
Hmm.
count. And
Yeah.
eventually, I won a lot of games by decking versus Is It Delver in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah. For sure.
and we definitely get a bit of that here. Like
Hmm.
the list I'm playing has 8 removal spells in the plows and the bindings, and then 2
Hmm.
terminus, which is impermanent, and then the 4 bowmasters, which line up against your bowmasters, but don't line up against your murktides. And
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
judicious use of resources, you
Hmm.
can kind of just hard lock you even in like the mid
Yes.
game.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, and then you have the Forth Eorlingas, or I assume there's the fourth. Not every deck runs it, but I think at this point, the one of is becoming the go-to in the Beanstalk decks rather than like the Murktide
Right.
Hullabaloo. Yeah,
Yeah, my list does have 1/4 Aerlingus in it.
yeah, that's something that you can just wait for that. Do you have the Mystic Sanctuary?
I do. Yep.
Okay, yeah, because that's one thing. This is just a side note, as I'm testing Control as well potentially for Eternal Weekend. I want the basic island, and I also want the Mystic Sanctuary, and I'm not sure if the mana base can support both. But that's something we'll also be looking at for sure.
Yeah, and that's something I said. I did a little deck tech intro before we started our matches just by myself, and I just copied one of the top 8 lists from Japan. I can't call
Hmm.
this like my list, but This list has 1 Wasteland, 1 Island, 1 Plains, and 1 Mystic Sanctuary. They're just doing all of it, and
Mhm.
I have found that you kind of have to
Pick
pick,
2 or 3.
yeah, pick like 2 of these 4 things,
Mhm.
because this list has Bayou, Wasteland, Plains, and Savannah that don't trigger Sanctuary,
Yeah.
and it's just asking a lot of it. But if the game goes long enough, I mean, if you just never naturally draw your Sanctuary, it's fine and probably even
Mhm.
good. But if you do, it's frequently going to be tapped until like turn
Yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah. I can see the idea behind Wasteland. It's something Control decks have played for a while, and hitting something like Cavern of Souls and or Urza Saga is quite good, but I think that you just draw so many cards these days if you get your engine set up that it's like it's okay to potentially 2-for-1 yourself against Saga construct tokens or like a token plus whatever they get. Um, or like you'll find something to force eventually out of initiative, and in the meantime, like Terminus can help take care of that. Like I think that with the Terminuses, you don't need the Wasteland. Is kind of the short of what I'm trying to say here. Um,
Yeah,
in my personal testing, yeah.
that's a really interesting and useful observation, because I don't imagine many deck builders are thinking about Terminus and Wasteland as answers to the same problem.
Yeah.
And if the problem we're trying to solve is like Cavern of Souls and Urza Saga, actually, it does check those
Mhm.
boxes in
Yeah.
kind of a roundabout way.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I think I about drained my thoughts. Do you want to hop into another game?
Yeah, let's play another game.
All right. Sounds great.
You come here to level up at Magic. To level up as a software engineer, check out the YouTube series Dev Better, hosted by the founder of 7 Factor Software and Magic player, Jeremy Duvall. You can also find Jeremy co-hosting episodes 106 and 109 of the Tech Talk series with Keith Shaw on the Tech Talk YouTube channel. Head over to Tech Talk and don't forget to subscribe to 7 Factor's YouTube channel for every episode of Dev Better. I'm on the play for our second match here, and that's intentional. I did win the die roll, but if Pokemoki won the die roll, he was going to defer to the draw just because we are testing here. This is a structured testing session. We're not just queuing into leagues against each other and seeing what happens. When you're testing, make sure you have experience on play and draw. And this hand does have the domain if I get Xander's Lounge, but if I get Xander's Lounge, I can't ponder. I am going to keep this hand, though. I'm still going to keep hands to the best of my ability by pretending I don't know what the matchup is. And given that framework, maybe I am supposed to just pass here, because I can fetch Xander's Lounge, Ponder, and then also Leyline Binding something all on turn 2. And if I, air quotes, don't know the matchup, please don't fucking stifle me here. All right, we got away with it. I would never play around Stifle if I didn't know it was in the deck. Ponder, Bowmaster, Trop, Beanstalk. These are all good cards. I think I want the Bowmaster last. And I would like to play the Savannah because that can bind if I need to. Okay, snapping off land number 2 pretty quick here. All right, I got options now, which is I could bind to this Beanstalk right now and play into Daze. And I have 2 bindings. If I get Dazed here, it costs me a binding. I can untap and go Beanstalk plus binding next turn, but then if he forces my Beanstalk or my binding, it's a lot worse. I think I am just going to send it right now. That is a 2-for-1 exchange for him, but I'm setting up a better late game for myself. And tapping this way tells him I have another white spell, whether it's Plow or Binding, to be determined. But Pokemoki's a strong enough player to read that I left up Savannah in a deck with Brainstorm, that maybe blue is better, if I don't have a specific reason for it not to be better. And you should always be paying attention to what dual lands get tapped, especially out of a deck like this one that every single land means something. A Ponder from the opponent. A single Wasteland can't take me off Brainstorm. It can take me off this Gripful of White, or it could knock off my domain. Force of Negation kinda sucks. I am gonna Brainstorm here, and I have multiple answers to a Bowmaster, but I do have to do this, and we got there. I don't like Force of Negation. I just don't. And I'm going to put Swords to Plowshares on top. I just have so many ways to remove threats right now, and he doesn't appear to be in a hurry to cast threats. If I get Underground Sea here, I could start rounding out my domain, but I think Tundra's better as just more white. Getting wasted off white here is actually really bad. Forth Eorlingas, Plains, Plow. It does play Thoughtseize. I do like the basic planes. Kind of like the ability to shove Forth Eorlingas if nothing else is going on. Up the Beanstalk. I'm not going to snipe this. Once again, I don't want to be the one holding the bag on the second Bowmaster, or on the first Bowmaster. If I didn't Ponder, I could have held up Bowmaster plus Plow here and been more confident in this interaction. But I've been playing to this spot where now I can bind his Beanstalk and draw a card. And if he forces, like, I'm still up a card on this exchange, even though we've both drawn for Beanstalk. Spell Pierce. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. I am still up a card on this exchange. There's the Lingus. I can shove Forth Eorlingas while playing around Daze here. White, red, 1, 2. If I went one deeper, I get to draw a card, but this means that he has to force it. Okay, force pitching Murktide Regent. Like, that's like, I don't know if I just demanded a force of will there by not paying the extra 1, or if I just lost a card on something he'd have to force anyway. It ended up being a 1-for-1 because the force cantripped, and it could have been a 2-for-1 or a 0-for-1, I guess is how we would actually math that out, because the fourth cantripping zeroes out. But now Mystic Sanctuary is a threat for the rest of the game. I have islands, and the fourth is there. Ponder. Did not shuffle. Has a Wasteland. Taking out the Lounge cuts off my red and my black, and turns off Mystic Sanctuary. That was a really powerful Wasteland. Uro. That's a powerful card. I'm going to start with Ponder. I can Plow twice if he tries to Bowmaster this. Life from the Loam. My goodness. Okay. That is the type of action I'm looking for at all times in my life. Unfortunately, there are Force of Negations in this deck. Yeah, there's one. Please don't have it right now. No, stop. No. Okay, Sovereign's Ransom. It's going to dig for Force of Negation. Daze, Stifle, Murktide, and 3 cards. The Misty Rainforest does represent... So I could give you the 2 soft permission spells here, and then make you think about Murktide. The top pile will be presented face up. Okay. You want Stifle Daze, or do you want Fetch Murktide? Okay. As if this Loam resolves, I don't care about Stifle Daze, and I am ready to fight a Murktide. Alright, took the Murktide and the land, and we are in there. I'm going to play the Xander's Lounge, and that was an excellent situation. And I know there's Uro Island on top of my deck, so I can mill an Uro directly into the graveyard, then fire it here. Mystic Sanctuary was already in the grip, picking up Sauron's Ransom. Okay, so... Alright, so he gets the Sauron's Ransom now with this sequencing. Like, he could have made Murktide 1 point bigger by doing the Murktide first, then picking it up, but he wanted the draw. So there is relevant sequencing on both of those. Okay, I don't care about Fatal Push. I do care about Lorien Revealed. Lorien Revealed versus all other cards. Is this how I want to play this? If I give you Daze Lorien Revealed, Murktide Fatal Push, face up, then Daze Lorien Revealed is the mystery. Maybe I don't care about Daze, but I always care about Daze when Mystic Sanctuary is involved. I could just do Lorien Revealed and 3 other cards. Either way, this is 3 cards. Okay, I'm going to do it like this. I hate giving him 3 cards. Lorien Revealed in the graveyard, kept the Murktide, Daze, Fatal Push pile. I am going to Dredge Loam here. Had to go to discard right away. Oh, you also get a Ring Bearer. Murktide being in play before the Sauron's Ransom matters there. Uro straight to the bin. This Ring Bearer loots. It is a concern that I have. Swords to Plowshares right now. That's gone. And I can shove an Uro here. I didn't even need to fetch, but I did. I can put Forth Eorlingas on top of my deck. I just thought I need another green source. I'm thinking about other stuff, busy narrating and not actually playing the game. Whoops. Okay. I'll Underground Sea, because then I can still Bowmaster. Binding. Loam is literally in my hand. Ponder. Yeah, that leaves a good spread of lands and spells in my graveyard. And we've resolved Uro, which we identified as an important thing to do in this matchup if you want to win it. Another Beanstalk, okay. Can't interact with that meaningfully. They have Daze and Fatal Push in hand, so I'm not going to play this Bowmaster. That turns on Fatal Push at the very least. This Murktide's good for 2 cards here. Here they come. Still can't Bowmaster effectively here. There's the push. And I think I want to just untap here and draw a card. I think I'm going to start with Life from the Loam. Volcanic Island, Life from the Loam for 3 targets. Tapping my basic planes because that doesn't cast Uro. Green, blue, fetch a green. Okay, I can plow and Uro this turn. I'm going to plow off Tundra. And then if I fetch here, get the Tropical Island, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lose Life from the Loam, but I keep Forth Eorlingas. Green, blue. Yeah, I'm going to leave Forth Eorlingas in the graveyard. Refire Uro. Daze. Oh no, were they just picking it up, or do they actually have the double Daze here? We're in there with Uro. Another push. Okay. That's all of those. Flooded Strand represents Forth Eorlingas for next turn. He has Mystic Sanctuary, though, which can put Force of Will back on top of the deck, and I imagine there's some cantrip in this hand. Okay. Up the Beanstalk. Yeah, that's a good one. Third one of those. Force of Will in the hand. And here's a Murktide that drew 3 cards. So sick. I am reasonably on the decking plan here. There are 3 Murktides already gone. Yeah, this is the last one of those ever in the world. And they are gone. And I'm not going to Mystic Sanctuary the Forth Eorlingas after all. I might need multiple Swords to Plowshares this turn. Okay, plow, tapping my Tundra. If they force this, I'm going to Bowmaster in response. And this will get some damage going. Do I want to put 4 damage on Murktide? Or start going face? I think Murktide makes sense. That way, even if they cantrip into another force here, I still kill the Murktide, which is important because we just talked about how this is the last major win con in the deck. Okay, that force resolves, and then I can fetch for Mystic Sanctuary, put Plow on top of my deck, and then green, blue. Nope, that's not how Uro works. Up the Beanstalk is how I'm going to draw this Plow. Play the Bayou, Swords to Plowshares this. Even if you have Force, you just have to let that resolve because it doesn't do anything. Uro trigger, Island in play. I have Forth Eorlingas in my hand, and okay, Uro's online. They're out of win conditions that aren't Orcish Bowmaster. I just have to make sure I don't give them a huge Bowmaster activation in a turn, and then I can squeeze this one out. Thoughtseize Bummer. That's really good. Both of my cards in hand are good, though. Yeah, Teferi is the one that actually messes up Bowmaster, though. If I just don't cast spells and attack with my Orc army, I think that's a winning proposition. Attack with Orc army. And their life total is insane from all the plows I've cast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am just going to play an Uro here. All my ways to recur stuff is gone. And if they have Bowmaster, they can kill my Bowmaster anyway. And the second trigger doesn't kill a second thing. So let's just get Uro into play here. Second Lorien revealed. And I'm just not going to fall for Bowmaster stuff. There it is. I will not be revealing Lorien into that. Sheoldred's Edict kills Uro. Okay. That makes my Terminus even better for next turn. Attack me for 2. Brainstorm. I am F6 tier, which I wouldn't do normally, but I don't want to time out in this testing game. Okay, Terminus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can tap better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They do get some Bowmaster triggers here off of my beans. I can force some negation back on interaction on this terminus, though. How many forces have we seen? There's one. Literally one. Okay, so we should assume there's just infinite forces in the hand. Okay, they've let my Bean trigger resolves. And Orcish Bowmaster is back in the deck now. I'm not sure if I still have a fetchable, but I will play my Misty Rainforest just in case. Opponent fetched. That shuffles the Orcish Bowmaster from the bottom of the deck back into the deck somewhere. I'm just gonna play Draw Go here, because I have 22 cards in my deck to your 17. I don't actually have to kill you. Brainstorm. 16 cards in the deck. This is a lot of lands. I have enough of these. Thank you. Okay, there's a Bowmaster. That's an actual threat that can deal damage to me. Fetching failed to find, but opponent just brainstormed, so he knew that he didn't want those cards. Out of lands over there. It's all spells from here. Brainstorm, risky. I would like to find a white spell or a Bowmaster of my own to deal with their Bowmaster, and then I can start really doing stuff. Even a Force of Will would be fine. Okay, cool. We're cooking. In business here. I am quite certain I'm out of fetchables, and I think discarding a land to hand size is better than actually playing it out, because I do have Uro in my graveyard, and that gets the fetch land there without killing me. It's just like fetching, but free. Okay, my own Bowmaster. Time to start making things happen here. Target yours. Block Orc Army with Orc Army. And now I'm winning. I don't have to cast this Brainstorm. If opponent plays a Bowmaster, I can Brainstorm in response. That's one down. Witherbloom command. Oh, they're going to mill me. Shit. I will respond with Force of Negation. And if you force, you draw 3 cards, which flips the mill me target. Force of Negation. Okay, please do not have another Bowmaster right now. I'm going to Brainstorm in response. And he's drawn basically his whole deck. I'd be surprised if I didn't get Bowmastered here. Shit. Alright, well, there's that one. Okay, that kills my Bowmaster. And then I Brainstorm into 3 Force of Wills. Cool. Put back Misty, Misty, and... Right, just 2. That's how Brainstorm works. And then they're going to mill my Misty Misty for me. Milled 2 lands and an Uro. I still have more cards in my deck than them. White spell, removal spell, no such luck. If I play Uro, their Orc becomes larger. Green, green, blue, blue. I go to 13 cards in my deck here, but Uro is good enough to stabilize this board, I hope. If you Murderous Cut, you lose 3 cards. What a weird situation we're in here. Yep, can't attack. Love that. Wasteland. Alright. I'm also not going to attack. I think this situation ultimately favors me. I will be discarding a Lorien Revealed to hand size here. Ooh, Shoulder's Edict. That one sucks. Oh, if I force, I draw 2 cards. Their thing gets too big. Shit. Alright. Shoulder's Edict was a great find. And if I force, I go to 9 cards. And the Bowmaster gets bigger. But I do get to draw some stuff. Alright, I'm going to force this. If I find my own Bowmaster or a plow off of these draws, Leyline Binding, unfortunately, is a bunch of redraws. Yeah, the Beanstalk actually a liability here. And now I'm behind on cards in my deck and losing. Discard land, Lorien Revealed. Yep, forgot about Shieldred's Edict. I'm going to take 7 here. How many plows are in my deck? I should have counted before I took 7, but we got 1, 2, 3. There's 1 plow left. Oh, that's not it. Yeah, my one attacker, I need Forth Eorlingas to win this game, and it's not a card that I play. Alright, yeah, I'm dead. Wow. Alright, cool. The Shieldred's Edict was the answer. I knew it was out of Fatal Pushes. I didn't check the list, but I knew Murderous Cut I would actually beat because of the draw 3. Maybe I got impatient on that Brainstorm, and if I just never give him a 4-4, can't actually pull ahead. Yeah, I think that Brainstorm was bad. Okay. Alright. I blinked first in that Battle of Wits. And we're going to start a new match and go straight to game 2, because that game 1 took a lot of time, and since we're testing, this is the thing we can afford to do. Okay, we're in sideboarding with fresh clocks here. Force of Vigor, I believe, should have been in the whole time. The Veils, Carpets. I don't think I want Oppo Agent. Storm for sure. I don't want Surgicals. There's no red cards. There's no artifacts. Well, there's one artifact, but not enough to want to bring in that card for it. Force of Negation's definitely bad. Yeah, just looking at all the cards in this deck, it's the forces. It's the forces all day, every day. Teferi's really good against checking for Orcish Bowmaster before I cantrip, but it's pretty bad elsewhere. I mean, it's good at resetting a Murktide. This might be controversial. I wonder if I should cut an Up the Beanstalk or a Lorien Revealed. And probably not Lorien Revealed, because we talked about how the matchup is kind of like trying to keep a ever-flowing bowl of liquid from overflowing from the bug side. And Lorien Revealed being a reliable land source can keep my cup full while he tries to empty it. And I don't know how often the game will come into that decking situation that we just experienced. As all my best cards in the early game, like Lorien Revealed, Uro, and Up the Beanstalk, are the ones that I don't want in that late game decking situation. Maybe I just don't bring in Deed. I have these two Terminuses, and then I have Veil of Summers, Carpets of Flowers, but so do you. Ugh. Maybe it's somehow Terminus. Like, he's going to play one creature at a time for the most part, and Terminus is a sketchy draw in the late game. Yeah, I'm going to go down a Terminus. Maybe controversial, but if your opponent only has 8 creatures in their deck, oh no. This is Island Ponder, but against the Wasteland deck, I'm going to keep this. I might just lose on the spot, but I have to trust my deck full of mana sources to, give me one. Uh-oh. Shuffle. Please don't have Wasteland, or please don't read this as what it is. No! All right. Well, this one might be quick. Shit. All right. I'll play a couple turns of this and see if this is a worthwhile testing endeavor. Okay, cool. We got there. Don't stifle me, bro. Island Ponder. We're back in this. I'm going to get Spell Pierced or Dazed. The one of Spell Pierce coming up big again. And here we are in that position where he's trying to empty my cup, I'm trying to fill it, and I'm just not doing anything. So this is an important thing, both as a Magic player and in testing. You can look at this situation where my Ponder whiffed on 4 looks, and then my opponent had one of his 3 Wastelands and chose to use it. And you could be like, yeah, I should have mulliganed this. Or you can realize that that's probably not even true. As 20 lands in this deck, plus the 2 Lorien Revealeds, Ponder looks at 4 cards. There's 53 cards in my deck. 19 of them are lands. That's better than 1 in 3. And I get to look at 4 things. And I have a second Ponder. I just need to find 1 land. Even if he does cheese Wasteland me, I just cast the other Ponder and we go. Ugh. I am falling behind now. He's got all his value permanents. Even worse than the Wasteland is all this other stuff that's happening. I can bind here for Xaxes. I don't have green or black mana, which are the 2 colors that I need. I am going to save my binding for Murktide region, I think. I don't think I fight over Up the Beanstalk, especially facing down Daze. Just give it a second here. Bowmaster. And I could clear the binding now. I'm still worried about Daze, still worried about Force. I'm going to plow the Bowmaster, though. I gave 0 thought, by the way, to casting Forth Eorlingas for 1 there. That gets blown out by Fatal Push, Murderous Cut, Daze, Force, Bowmaster. Just complete non-starter on that. There's a Sauron's Ransom. Yeah, now we're just going to get buried. I'll give you 3 lands in Daze, or the choice of a Bowmaster. Or I could do it the other way. Bowmaster versus 3 cards. Okay, took the 3 cards. Murktide gets to draw. My best draw is a land that fetches Bayou, or Bayou itself. If I can reduce Leyline Binding and then also protect it from counterspells with Veil, that's the nuts here. Bloodstrand does not get Bayou. I can get Savannah. I guess that's the same thing, isn't it? Or no, Bayou would have been the full spread, so I have to get Savannah here. And I can still do some of what I wanted to do. Leyline Binding. Take the Murktide, please. And I could play up the Beanstalk now. I mean, it's awkward after binding, but the more important card just resolved. All right, I'm going to try this. It resolved. We actually knew he had Daze from the Sauron's Ransom and chose not to use it. That's scary. Green, green, green in the pool. Are we just going to see a Force of Vigor here? That's how it looks. Yep. All right. My two things are dead. Your Murktide's back. Brainstorm. Drawing my Carpet of Flowers is what I need to do here. Orc Army gets in. My Force of Vigor. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to Brainstorm. I can Veil of Summer and Orc. Oh, I drew my Carpet. Mystic Sanctuary and Terminus to the top. Land, Carpet. Okay. And I'm going to make green in the second main. 3, 4, Force of Vigor, target your two things. We can both play this game. A fetch is happening here, and you can Mystic Sanctuary and start looping Sauron's Ransom at the very least here. That makes Murktide bigger. And there's Force of Will pitching the Daze. That's going to draw the Sauron's Ransom. If I fetch, I lose my Terminus, but I think that's worth it here. And I think I do want Bayou for the full spread. Veil of Summer. We talked about this in our mid-game brief about sometimes this is going to line up better. Oh, wow. And I can Leyline Binding uncounterably here, too. Let's see if he Sauron's Ransoms in the end step. I'm going to give him the chance to do that. Because if he picks a new Ring Bearer, like if he turns Murktide into the Ring Bearer, I'd rather answer that. All right. Didn't play into it. Or Sauron's Ransom doesn't target, right? I think it's choose an opponent. Back to Fiction actually targets, where that one does not. And we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It costs 10 to kill a Murktide with Deed all in one turn. Witherbloom Command, disappointing. And milled me, even though I had just shuffled. That put Loam in my graveyard. That's cool. Good to have access to that. And he's going to Wasteland here. I think I have to... Let's see what happens. I could Binding now. But he just tapped the Wasteland, so I don't think that's where I want to be. Beanstalk, Murktide, Bowmasters. I'm going to put Bowmasters and Beanstalk in the same pile with Murktide hitting. Because these are all things that die to Deed. And now this Orc loots when it attacks. Discarded Polluted Delta. Nile Spellbomb, no! Where did this card come from? Do I Dredge Loam? It's a complete blank. I am not going to Dredge Loam. I can Mystic Sanctuary and target, Veil of Summer? Try to set up a big Forth Eorlingas next turn. Alright, going for the Spellbomb. I believe I am in trouble here. Well, okay, so you've got Underground Sea, Misty Rainforest. There's a Misty in the graveyard. I might have lost track of this. So, 3 cards in hand that I know. None of them are blue. Or, honestly, I may have lost track of what I know here. I'm 100% confident there are 2 cards in hand that are not blue. I could Forth Eorlingas and Leyline Binding. I think I want to bind first. Take out the Murktide. Red, white, 1, 2. Or do I want 3? I really don't want to get dazed. Force of Will, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go 2 horses here. Alright, we're in there. At least a little bit. Attack with 1. Get the Monarch. If that's the first resolution of Forth Eorlingas in the match. See if this ends up being any good. I'm happy to see that Bowmaster. Oh, I can't block this fucking Ring Bearer. I should have attacked with both. Yeah, I just forgot how this mechanic works. Whoops. Wastelanding my Bayou. I'll float a green. Just make you think about it. That does take me off black, though. Which is my entire hand. Up the Beanstalk. Yeah, opponent should be at 12 right now. I just forgot how this stupid ring works. This is why we test. Be aware of these things. Discarded a Ponder. Can't block. Then if you have 2 removal spells, I'm in trouble. Jeez, Wasteland 2. Another one. A land that makes black. Or I guess I need a fetch land for Underground Sea. They took me off green. Wow. When you fetch the basic and have the Mystic Sanctuary, things get really shitty for your splash colors. And I'm gonna attack with both of these. Just gonna hammer it back and forth here. End step, I draw a card. Bowmaster resolves. And I think I want Bowmaster to be gone. Yeah. Has the Force of Will. Alright. Now we're losing. Because they get to end up with a 3/3 army, and I lose a horse here. A row that I can't play. Okay, it's a 2-match sample size, but trying to make a 5-color mana base work against a Wasteland deck is tough. The 4-color bean decks that I've played that are actually 4 colors, but then they play a Triome to make binding cheaper, like that's just a different thing than what we're doing here. And I did cast the Forth Eorlingas, it did matter. Oh, he brought in his swamp. Interesting. Just having a higher land count versus control matchups. Is that what we're thinking about here? Or is it just a non-island land you can put into play? If we're expecting a carpet mirror, oh no, I'm getting double commanded. I got drained for 2, and they picked up Wasteland and take me off white. Okay, yep. This is a complete deconstruction of this bigger deck. I am forced to be smaller, and that's not how I want to be. Well, let's see if this combat connects, because that was not a bad draw. Okay, moment of truth. If he's got a force, I lose. All right, yeah, good game. All right, let's go talk about that now, because that one was a smear compared to the first one. That was actually pretty close. Okay, so that set was a slaughter compared to the first one, where it was like, I'm just
Closer,
like
yeah.
a land drop away here in the 2 games that you won, where that one, it was like a disaster. Did you update how you were playing or thinking about the matches, or did it just line up differently?
No, I didn't. So I've been swapping Leovold and Force of Vigor just like on and off. So it's like I'll have one on the other end just to A/B test. I feel like Leovold is good early game, and then Force of Vigor is better like in the mid game. Force of Vigor, you wish you could play both, because like the best thing to do is Force of Vigor a binding that's on Leovold in response to like a cantrip or something.
Right.
But you know, we've talked about the sideboard space being tight and like probably just not wanting to lose 3 animator if you can avoid it. But I didn't change much. I think that the only thing I could say from like the control side is that when you play the Forth Eorlingas, it's like, I know you're playing around the Daze, but each extra 2/2 can definitely matter, you know, where it's like it can race or protect the monarchy better.
Right.
So like, I think sometimes you just got to go with it, and like, you know, Daze is only a 2 of in the bug list, so it's like just hope they don't have it.
Yeah, that's and like I've been talking about that on my side throughout our set, where even I think knowing your list might actually be more harmful than not knowing your list, because you have this 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Stifle, 2 Daze, and then this removal split of Shoulder's Edict, Fatal Push, and Cut, all as 2-ofs, and it's like, what am I supposed to play around at any given time? And if I didn't know your list, if you like stifle a fetch land in game 1, am I just playing around 4 stifles for the set, or do I somehow read that you only have 1? Or like, assuming, like, I know you won the Legacy Challenge recently with this list is out there, maybe not this 75, but I mean, people know about your 1 stifle at this point. And
yeah.
like, if I'm just out in the wild and pair into this and don't know anything, how do I even play around this? And like the just shove into Daze kind of thing, like there was in our last set, I missed a draw off Beanstalk because I was playing around Daze. Like my 5th mana was the critical bean trigger, and then you had to force, but if you Daze that, I just lose. And then in this last one as well, it's like I didn't even have a Beanstalk to consider. Honestly, like obviously, I just like forgot how the ring works and left back a horse for no reason.
Yeah.
But
We did 2 damage, but I don't think that would have changed too much.
no. I mean, definitely. I mean, that's why we test, make these mistakes in testing,
Yeah.
so you don't just hurl at Eternal Weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's extremely frustrating. And then in our last set, there was the spot where it was like one card left in hand. I'm just gonna tap out and do everything good, and then it was the Daze. So fuck me.
Yes. Yeah, 1-ofs and 2-ofs are just hard to play around optimally. It's like just really hard to you're always gonna play around it too much and lose equity, or play into it when it's very good. That's just, I think, one of the advantages of playing these, 1-ofs and 2-ofs that you can look for with your cantrips. I'm not sure what there is to do about that. If there was a tried and true way to beat that, I might not play a bunch of 1s and 2-ofs, but it's worked for me in my history of brewing and testing and playing.
Right. Yeah. We're gonna do one more set here, and maybe I will adjust. Like, I have had a lot of success in my career by just always blanking Daze and
Mm-hmm.
never give the tempo player that tempo, never give
Yes.
them like get that virtual card advantage. But this is not Delver. It's a different kind
Yeah.
of thing. Maybe I need to adjust my play, and maybe for this last set, I'll just play like you don't have any of these 1 or 2 ofs in your deck and see how that works out for me.
It's not a
And
bad strategy. One thing I will say, I guess 2 quick thoughts. One, I think blanking Days in general is a good idea and a good thing to learn as a control player coming up. I think because the bug deck specifically has its own card advantage engines to draw to, it's worse to do it here. It's not always incorrect, but I'm just saying it doesn't work out as well just because it's okay, you blanked a Daze, but it's I'm still drawing cards with Beanstalk,
right,
or Soren's Ransom, things like that. Whereas, so it's the late game is not 100% guaranteed to be in the control deck's favor, and
right,
so you don't necessarily just want to walk in there. The second thing I will say is that the games the control deck wins, it feels like it wins by a lot, and it's just very it seems impossible from the bug side. I had there was another moto grinder was talking with me, and he played this deck in some of the last chance qualifiers, and he was just control is unwinnable. How do I ever beat this? And it was well, I was well, you only played 1 match, it's a small sample size, and so it's it feels very swingy, where it's just you said, oh, this felt really rough from the control side, but it's when you do break out, it's just it's how is the bug deck ever supposed to stop an Uro, an active Uro, for example?
right. Yep.
So yeah, so it's swingy, just gotta get that sample size in. But yeah, let's do one more. I think that sounds good.
Let's get into it.
Yep, sounds good.
This video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, the easiest way to build Magic decks online. Moxfield supports over 30 formats, including Legacy and everything else you'll see on this channel. There's multiple customizations so you can interact with your deck how you want. Views such as text, grid, or stacks, and groupings like type, subtype, color, color identity, even artist. The site offers light mode, dark mode, and so much more. However you want to see your deck, Moxfield can provide it for you. Follow my Moxfield to keep up with the channel and what I'm playing in paper. I'll see you there. I'm on the draw for the final set here. It is my turn to be there, and the Life from the Loam in my opener is very exciting because we've been talking this whole set and the debriefs in between about how it's about kind of breaking out of their squeeze, and Life from the Loam exists in these control decks because casting the first one versus Wasteland decks is just so fucked up. And I'm going to try to play to that world, and we'll see what happens. I am not going to fetch here. Okay, Brainstorm means I'm not getting Bowmastered, and no blue card in this hand. And I could fetch 2 green cards here, or 2 green lands. Just get Trop Savannah, play a Beanstalk, try to get ahead with that, while Like, he has to Spell Pierce or Daze it here. Okay, we're in there with that. And now if he suddenly decides to Wasteland me, it's even better, because then he's committed a resource. Because if I just play Loam there, then he just doesn't even start wasting. So Ponder, Delta, Thoughtseize. Okay. Have a gander. There's that one Thoughtseize. Very good. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't need to fetch before playing Loam because I'll just end up going to discard hand size anyway. So getting this extra Flooded Strand in my hand doesn't actually matter. But I am now basically Wasteland proof. And at some point, he can pick strategic spots to take me off domain or whatever. But I'm not going to just fail to play the game because I don't have lands at this point. Witherbloom Command, that is the thing that his deck is good at doing. That's the tech designed to crack the Beanstalk mirrors. And I'm going to fetch the Xander's Lounge here. Let's get my domain up. Drawing a land. I did not dredge Loam. I don't think that dredging Loam trying to spike in Uro is better than taking a draw step in spots like this. Like, Uro's in the deck somewhere. We'll find it. Not currently under any pressure. What's the rush? Rebuying Sauron's Ransom. Gonna start catching up on cards here. He knows I can Force of Will starting next turn. I am actually gonna fetch before I draw. I don't normally do that in control decks. Spell Pierce and Daze. But this is actually, like, pretty interesting. Like, do you think there's a better card? Like, I think Daze is worse than Spell Pierce, but I might have hid the better card face down, and the piles are otherwise very close. I kept the Daze. And I'm going to grab Underground Sea here. I just have so many fetch lands that I'm not worried about. What if I draw Brainstorm? Like, let's just fetch. Whatever. I got more where that came from. There was a pause in the unstep there. I wonder if he's thinking about if it's time to put a Bowmaster in. Lorien Revealed. Gross. And I can't actually force this because we know he's holding Daze from the Sauron's Ransom, and it'll pick up Mystic Sanctuary and then just refire the Lorien Revealed, and I'm way behind on that exchange. Fetch Volcanic Island. Jeez, okay. This is too many lands now. Officially too many lands. Yeah, that one of Thoughtseize, just taking my backup Beanstalk. Super messed up. I will force this Beanstalk. If he has the Stifle or the second Daze, he can win this fight without forcing. But forcing to fight over the Beanstalk is good because forcing after the Beanstalk, it'll draw a card. Daze, okay. That might have just been to rebuy the Sanctuary. Gonna get Bayou. Add the second Daze. Cool. Alright. Well, now I can play like Daze and Spell Pierce hard in the deck because we've seen them all. Got 8 cards in his hand over there. I need to find a Beanstalk of my own pretty quick. And this is what he was talking about in the debrief too, where it's like, against Delver that doesn't actually have raw card advantage, if you wait long enough, Daze will just be like a discarded card because they can't use it. But this deck, if you wait too long, then they get their Beanstalk engine going. And now I can start spamming Murktides. He knows I have 2 Leyline Bindings in hand, but it's a cantrip. What's the worry? Bayou doesn't cast Murktide. Oh no, another bean. Nightmare Fuel. I would like a bean of my own here to try to keep up, but there are only 2 of those left in my deck. Bowmaster, okay. That one is not bad. Leyline Binding. We're in there. Take out the Murktide. I don't have to play around Force of Vigor yet. That's in the sideboard games. I'm not going to Bowmaster this Ponder. He has 26 cards left in his deck to my 39. That's how much deeper into the deck he is than I am right now. Wasteland. That card is not actually helpful or good in this position. Okay, here's your Bowmaster. You ping me. Here's my Bowmaster. Target your Bowmaster. That resolves so easily, I suspect he's got another one. Oh yeah. Now here's yours. And he knows about this binding in my hand, but I think Plow is still better. And I want to do it now while my Bowmaster's still in play, so if he forces, I just kill all his shit anyway. Okay, you have a 2-2 to my 1-1, and you have a double draw engine in play to my nothing of the sort. Only 2 of the 6 win conditions are accounted for. Fetching in the upkeep, grabbing the Mystic Sanctuary that was brainstormed away at some point, grabbing Force of Will. Hate that for me. Now, this feels like someone who's about to just like cast 2 Murktides and put me in check. Like cast double Murktide, all of it's under Beanstalk, and then you have Force Blue card, which is also a double draw and whatever. Wasting my Bayou. I'm gonna draw Uro. Okay. I mean, here come that boy. This is the one, if there is a card that can be helpful here. Uro triggers, not gonna Dredge Loam. Will put in a land. We know he's got Force of Will over there, but gotta send these things eventually. Tropical Island for green, green, blue, blue. Yep, there's the Force of Will. We knew about that one. And I'm going to cast my Ponder here while it's largely good to go. I will take this Brainstorm and Lorien Revealed. Still worried about the next Bowmaster, but I got my opponent in Figure Out Uro mode currently. Murktide, draw, draw. How many forces? Just one. Awful, terrifying news. I am going to Mystic Sanctuary my Swords to Plowshares this turn. Brainstorm from the opponent. Going to have 17 cards left in the deck. Gonna let him go to cleanup before I fetch. I can do that in my upkeep all the same. The Stifle is still in there somewhere. Stifle, target, plow. I'm going to draw my plow. Blue, green, green, blue. Uro's on the stack. Uro's in play. Trigger. Something's happening. I'm getting Bowmastered on the trigger. Fatal Pushing on the trigger. Okay. Brainstorming here feels like it would be a huge mistake. I'm actually going to plow here, targeting the Murktide region. If we start a fight now, okay, I'm going to Leyline Bind over top of the Force of Will. He's known about this the whole game. Saw it off the Thoughtseize. Exile the Murktide. Stifle. There's the Stifle. Okay. 3 cards left. Yeah, going for Force here, not even good. Alright. Yeah, I'm about to get destroyed. I think if I had read earlier that he only has 1 black up, or no, he cast Fatal Push, so he didn't have 1 black up. But at this point, I can Wasteland the Bayou and then try to Brainstorm without getting sniped. Oh no, I played it. No, the Spell Pierce is done. We did that already. I don't have to play around that. If I Brainstorm into a white card here, I can target the Murktide with it. Terminus, I should have been more specific. If I take 10, I'm at 3. Yeah, I guess I can set up Terminus for next turn with Force Protection. Alright, just hope I don't die. If he plays a second Murktide, I just lose, because that pumps the first one. Brainstorm. My finger's on the concede button. I see the blue tapped. Yep, okay. Dead. Yeah, for all the talk we've had in our debriefs about, like, how is this deck ever supposed to be an active Uro, it certainly happened a bunch of times. And the answer seems to be when your tempo spell that kills the creature that ETB to draw a card draws 2 cards, you can find a way through. Okay, Carpet Fluster. I'm going to think about my sideboard plan again. I've been getting completely handled the whole time. Maybe Pernicious Deed sucks. I've been asking my deck to play a expensive splash color card against the Wasteland Daze strategy against the opponent who knows how to take me off splash colors. I do think the Veil is good. Yeah, I just think the Force of Vigor is good too. Just tried to remap it, and these are still just the good cards. Is there a life hack that results in Force of Will still being in my deck, even as a 2-of? This is the same thing I feel like I did earlier. I ended up cutting a Terminus last round, and Teferi has a lot going for him. Just a 1-of, good against Murktide, bad against Bowmaster. Is there any world where Force of Will is better than Teferi in this matchup? I just don't believe it, but I did find a way to get 1 Force of Will into the deck. That's at least something I can dig for if I find myself ahead. What if Terminus sucks? I have 12 spot removal spells for 8 threats in their deck. Okay, I'm going to try Force of Will over Terminus in any number here. The plan is evolving. The machines are learning. I can play a Beanstalk here and then an Uro. I'm going to keep this. And I'm going to lead on Wasteland. If he wants to Wasteland a Wasteland, then that's fine. This is the open that doesn't get denied by Wasteland, basically. Polluted Delta. That's the basic swamp and played Nile Spellbomb. Okay. This Uro just got a bit worse, but he can't daze me here. And I hope that this swamp ends up actually hurting him long term. Though the Spellbomb is quite good against my plan of Uro. Force of Vigor. I could send it at these two things. That seems bad, though. Like, I don't want to kill a Spellbomb. Orcish Bowmaster. Disappointing. Okay, if I find black here and can ping his Bowmaster, I'm doing good. Yo. Okay, and I can even play around Daze by wastelanding you first. Then Underground Sea Bowmaster. Kill your Bowmaster. And then I'm going to Force of Vigor pitching Uro in the upkeep before he gets any mana. Like, he can just cantrip off the Nile Spellbomb, which I don't love, but denying mana here, this is a base blue deck, and he fetched this basic swamp, ended up getting wastelanded anyway. That Uro is not going to be able to get leveraged until I clear the Spellbomb. And when you draw a card, you lose your army. Okay. Maybe the secret to this matchup is to just be a tempo deck after all. Alright, if you wasteland me here... Okay. Alright, correctly took me off black, so I couldn't pile on the Bowmaster beats. Underground Sea. You are representing Bowmaster of your own here. Not anymore. Okay, here's your Bowmaster. And I'm actually going to plow first, because if you want to Force of Will here, I can get a double blowout. Veil of Summer. Sick. Alright, and then that fizzles, and I can cycle Lorin Revealed for... Oh, no, Underground Sea is dead. I don't have a... Oh, I should have done it main phase for Xander's Lounge. Whoops. Well, I mean, he has navigated the game to a spot where if he shoves Murktide here, it's really freaking good. The Beanstalk is kind of desperate from this position. I'm really glad that wasn't a Murktide. I'm not well equipped for that. Really wish I had cycled for Xander's Lounge last turn. Ponder. Found a fetch land. That gets Bayou. Fetch. Bayou. Just push extra damage here. Main phase. I did shuffle away a Plow to shove this Bowmaster early, but if you play Murktide, you take 2 damage on this position. If you Fatal Push, or if you Murderous Cut, you take 2. Children's Edict, sacks a non-token, lose a Bowmaster. And I will not be cycling this Lorin Revealed because I'm so close to going off with it. Veil of Summer. Not sad to see that. Opponent is at 2 with a Beanstalk in play, and I still have Bowmaster. Murderous Cut and Fatal Push are actively bad at this point. Okay. Just, is there a Veil of Summer in the deck that he's playing to here, or is this just goofing? Okay. Alright, so I was the one who did the containing that game. I don't think that's going to pan out often, but being priced into leading on Wasteland caused him to fetch basic, and then I was able to Wasteland, and okay, interesting. I'm wondering if I want Opposition Agent. I talked about it a little bit previously, but the Mystic Sanctuary engine has been what's blowing me out in the mid games and late games when we get there. Lose 1, force, up 1 Oppo. Alright, I'll try this. This is extremely experimental. I don't actually think this is good. I'm just testing because that's what we're doing. Oh, he's got 61 cards in his deck. Caught in 4K. Alright, I can start on Carpet of Flowers. That's pretty good. Consistently identified as one of the most important cards in the matchup. Delta. Bayou. Okay. Playing around my carpet. I think I might have the same turn 1. Or Savannah. Okay. Savannah Carpet. 2 people who have played these mirrors before. Maybe I'm supposed to save mine, though. Shit. I might have just blown it, because he has Witherbloom Command, and I have Prismatic Ending. Yeah, Witherbloom Command is really good here. So is Wasteland. Up the Beanstalk. Yeah, unfortunately, I'd have to feed him an island to play my Beanstalk. And maybe I'll just lean on the Bowmaster instead. Wasting me, float green. Fetch for Underground Sea. Gotta do what we gotta do here. And the good news is, if he was using this to set up a cantrip, I just got ahead of that. The bad news is, if he's got his own Bowmaster, he could play it here. And then he has Carpet active, and I don't. Okay, made blue. I guess that doesn't matter. There's a black land right there. Yep, great. Okay, he's better at playing on Bayou than I am. And my entire hand is just card draw. Guess I should go to combat, since I'm likely to ponder here anyway. Or play Beanstalk anyway. Alright, Beanstalk. I'm just feeding this carpet forever. And that is the only non-island in his deck, so we are pretty close to there. My next green card's really good on Force of Vigor, unless he hits me with it first. Blue in the pool. Do we have Murktide? Do we have Lorien Revealed? Oh, right, the basic Swamp came in out of the sideboard. Got one island. Yep, Lorien Revealed. Big beats. Back up the 7 cards in hand over there. Up the Beanstalk. Yes, make green. I think I just play another Beanstalk here. I am aware of the Orc army. 3rd Beanstalk. Of course I tap my green source to do anything here. Ponder. There's the Swords to Plowshares. That is what I wanted. I'm going to play Tundra and pass, and I am going to Force of Vigor his stuff in the upkeep. I don't think I need 3 beans. Force of Will, pitching Ponder, Swords to Plowshares now before he draws another card that might be a counterspell. Gets 1,000,000 mana. Another 3 blue. Show me another Lorien Revealed. Just kill me. Beanstalk. We're now even on this type of magic. And Murktide that draws 2. Dangerous, terrible situation for me. And a Wasteland just keeping me off of doing anything. I'll Spellbomb too. Cool. Just busting it immediately. Drew Uro after the Lorien Revealed. Or after the Nile Spellbomb. Literally just saying random words at this point. I'm going to Ponder. And Leyline Binding is here. Am I able to cast this? I have 3 types. And I have 2 mana, so no. I will put the island on top. Play it. Go to 2nd main. Make my carpet mana. Make another blue and play Uro. Uro draws Brainstorm. Leyline Binding's on top of my deck. I am taking at least 8 this turn. Black in the pool. Turok Dreadcantor, no! Okay. That fucked me up pretty good. And the 3rd Wasteland shows up, of course it does. And that is the end of my hope. I'm drawing a brick that I no longer can cast. I'm only going to have 3 mana to cast a 4 mana card. Oh, I'm not even going to have that. All right. Completely dismantled here. If you're looking to run a CEDH or 1v1 tournament, Eminence Gaming has your back with Command Tower. With Command Tower's intuitive tournament manager dashboard, you can handle decklist submission and player management with just a few clicks. Players just need to scan the event's QR code for access to the full tournament bracket, including seamless pairings and real-time standing updates. Take the guesswork out of tournament organizing. Try Command Tower for your next event. Okay, I took a game that set, and it was a game where I just backdoored into what your deck is built to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really telling, where it was like the most ahead I felt in all 3 of our matches was the game where I was wastelanding you and killing your carpet and denying your ability to play the game. And like, how do you feel at the end of that? Obviously you won all the matches, and I mean, just talk to me about what you're thinking about your deck, because you asked me to play this deck because you wanted testing against it. What are your thoughts at the end of this?
So my thoughts are that the white removal is definitely more powerful, but it does come at a cost. You know, you're stretching your mana base further. Sometimes you're going to flood more, because it's like part of playing 4 colors is you have to add like 4-ish mana sources to your deck, and Beanstalk is a cantrip without selection, so it's like you're just going to draw cards off your deck without selection, so you might end up flooding more. You know, we saw times where you couldn't really cast the Leyline Binding, where like a card like Murderous Cut hits a lot less things, but you know, if you're getting wastelanded, you can at least delve away the lands that were wasted for Murderous Cut. Stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel that bad. Like we talked about in some of the previous debriefs, you know, Control is on the verge of breaking out a lot, but without something big like Uro or the One Ring that I end up being unable to answer. I think Bug can punch up pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that you were doing, which your deck is well suited to the game plan, and also you've played a lot of it, is you weren't just dumping out a bunch of creatures. You were like, here's a Bowmaster and a 2/2 army, figure that out. And then once I did that, it's like, here's a Murktide, figure that out. And it was just like one thing at a time, to the point where I actually boarded out the Terminuses by the end, because they're just not useful. And if I ever draw them, in our early sets, our first game 3, I died with both Terminus in my hand, and that just didn't feel good. And if and like I said, I have 12 spot removals for your 8 win conditions, and Terminus doesn't actually answer them; it just puts them into your deck for a while.
Yeah, in our game 1, just not to cut you off, but in our game where I ended up decking you, I was like, this Terminus, I kind of want to force it, but like also, this is just deck damage. You're putting a Bowmaster under my deck, and you're losing nothing, so I'll take it.
Yeah, and in that game where we came to decking, yeah, like I saw that coming around like the mid 20s, low 30s phase of our decks, and I'm sure you did too. And the turn where you Witherbloom commanded me for the mill 3, I was like, God damn it. That is I think every single mode of Witherbloom command was insane across these 3 sets. Just the life total drain was the worst of them, but never irrelevant. And then when you refire a Wasteland, when you kill Carpet of Flowers, and if it comes down to decking and you just mill me for 3, all of those things are a big problem.
Yes, yeah. It's definitely a very crucial part of these Beanstalk pseudo mirrors. There was that Rug Beanstalk deck that was like flavor of the week in October for a few weeks, and it quickly fell off. And I think one of the big things is it just doesn't have answers to enemy carpets or enemy beanstalks, and the black deck does. So
right,
it's definitely an upgrade.
Yeah, that deck definitely sucked.
Yeah. Dragon Channeler is a very good card, but it's not a mid-range card. And I think that Beanstalk wants things that can pivot between aggression and defensiveness, which Bowmaster does much better. Just one quick point on the removals. You're talking about you have the 12 removals to my 8 threats, and that's true. But one like slight, not advantage, but like one nice thing about that from the Bug side is that these cards can rot in your hand, and it's like a temporary mulligan. When they don't have good targets, and you're trying to use that to your advantage as much as you can with Bug. Like, I don't even bring in Surgicals for Uro in this matchup, because whenever you draw it, it's like you mulligan for like 4 or 5 turns, and you really need all your cards to be working towards a goal, basically. So that's why, like, at least the spell bomb you can play out and cycle if it's not doing anything else. And even the cycle can like if I eat 10 cards from your graveyard and I don't get an Uro there, that still slows down Uro quite a lot,
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
and we saw in at least one of the games where you had double Beanstalk and I had Uro going, and you would just murderous cut it, draw more cards than I did, push for damage, and like your engine was just better than Uro. So it came up in our debriefs a couple of times, like, you're just way behind versus an active Uro. It's like, yeah, but you could also just outdraw it and kill it enough times that I run out of cards in my graveyard.
Yeah.
My thoughts about this 5-color deck, again, this is not like my deck. I don't know that I would have chosen it. In fact, I specifically didn't choose the style of deck, even though I knew it existed for Eternal Weekend Prog. Like, I did go with a lower color, different threat kind of thing, like closer to your deck than this, I think, but somewhere in between. And I think that Leyline Binding, kind of the moment is starting to pass. Like, people in control mirrors know about Force of Vigor now, where maybe they had the card but weren't thinking about it a month ago. And when I like bind 2 Murktides and then you just spend 4 mana at some point to kill both of my bindings and get your 2 cards back. Or like if I take a bean early and then you cantrip on the bean on the way back in, that's like is that like a 4 for 0? Because like
something like that. It depends if you drew cards off your bindings, when you played them.
Yeah, and like binding is not a great removal spell if you don't have bean, and if control players know to attack the beans, like that's worth a force of will on turn 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then binding just becomes this awkward, exploitable removal spell that may or may not be castable, and then may or may not actually keep the thing dead. And I'm not trying to like reform my entire opinion of the format after a 3-match set versus 1 deck, but at the same time, it's like, what if I'm just a Bant Uro deck with the 1 ring and I don't mess around with the 4th and 5th color and I don't play up the Beanstalk? Like, where are we on that as a society? Or even if like I just don't want Leyline Binding to work. Like, there's a new card from Caverns of Ixalan called Get Lost, which is a removal spell that hits multiple permanent types, and it does leave your opponent with some advantage in play. They get 2 map tokens, but decks need creatures to use map tokens, and it's kind of like a weird source of recurring advantage. Like, even if your deck can't leverage Prismatic Ending, remember that one, by the way? We were in love with that card for 2 years, and now it's just not even in decks. So maybe there's a Prismatic Ending, like 4-color deck. Maybe there's a Get Lost pure Bant build. Maybe there's just a different way to do this. And the Yorion versions are doing that, plus beanstalking, because they just have room for activities, where I wonder if there's a 60-card build, or maybe I should just play Yorion, or maybe this is just maybe Sultai is just the truth here.
Yeah, maybe. I think the biggest nod to me for the 4th color, 4.5 color, is binding is good versus a lot of decks. And I think you're a little better into initiative because your removal is less situational and binding hits everything.
Right.
But as we saw in the set, there are some weaknesses of the 4-color build that can sometimes come into play. It's just less smooth, Binding is just like a finicky card where it's like you have to fetch in weird ways, and when I'm playing, I just never know when I'm supposed to fetch the Triome or not, or like get the colors I actually need to cast my spells. It's tough.
Yeah, and Leyline Binding, it specifically binding pulls a splash in kind of annoying directions, because like if I was just Bant with 1 Forth Eorlingas and like have the 4th color to make my Prismatic Endings better and have 1 copy of Forth Eorlingas, like that's a 3-color deck that I don't even need to think about red unless my opponent resolved a 1 ring or I have Forth Eorlingas in my hand. Whereas Leyline Binding, I need to be thinking about red and black as soon as I start the game, and those colors don't actually cast my spells that aren't the 2 splash cards or the Leyline Binding. And like, I'm glad we got this set versus you, a strong player with Wasteland in your deck, and you just always pinned exactly the color or land type that messed me up the most. And that was a nice clinic in how this can go wrong, even though it does look nice on paper.
Yeah. I think this was I'm really happy you agreed to test with me and also to film it. I think it's good content because I think that a lot of tempo players wonder, like, how can I punch up against control? And I think we saw some of the different avenues that you can try to do that, sometimes with mana denial or sometimes establishing your own engine.
Right.
So, and also the ways you lose, in this last match, you won game 1 because like you talked about in the previous debrief, you just played Beanstalk on 2. You didn't worry about Daze. You didn't worry about Spell Pierce, Stifle. I was saying when I was like deciding if I want to ponder or hold a Bowmaster, I'm like, if I ponder, what if they just play Beanstalk on 2 because they're like no fearing it? And I'm like, but I think I need to ponder. And then you did go for it, and that worked out very well for you. So I think that was the right line.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I did get blown out by various one-ups throughout the league. I also ignored them to some success.
Mhm.
And I think the results of that experiment are that your 1 and 2 of spread is very good and powerful and annoying because uh, even after all these sets and after talking about it actively and strategizing around it, I still don't have a conclusive way to handle that.
Mhm.
And the super mess up one that we haven't talked about yet is like once you have double or triple Beanstalk and you have like 15 cards left in your deck, I know you have the Stifle. And it's
Yeah.
just like where it is most stressful for you to use it. Like that one turn where I sanctuary plow in my upkeep and you paused and I was like, you could just stifle this. And then you didn't stifle it. I was like, oh, that's even worse. And then you ended up stifling the binding like 2 spells
Yeah.
later. And after I had committed a bunch of mana to the line.
Yeah, because I'd known about the binding from like the Thoughtseize early in the game, and I
Right.
was like, wait a minute, this is a trigger to build. Like I can just do this,
Right.
Um, yeah.
Cool. Do you have any other thoughts? I feel like we've been hitting them pretty good as we go here. And this was a really illuminating set. And
Hmm.
I am personally kind of adrift for Eternal Weekend, but I am both impressed by your deck. Not that I needed like a lot more because I've already played it. I played like the early version a month or
Yes.
more ago, and then uh, you won the challenge. Like this deck doesn't need my approval at this point, but uh, the ability to just pick apart this 5-color control deck, which absolutely smushed Grixis and Rug at Japan Eternal Weekend. It was like
Yes.
70+% win rate versus those decks,
Yeah.
whereas I just had a 0% win rate against you.
Smaller sample size than
Right,
Eternal
right.
Weekend, but yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. I did have one question from your end. I've been talking a bit about the 15th cyborg card, which is kind of a meme, but I'm at that stage.
Right.
What felt worse to play against, the Force of Vigor or the Leovold?
I think it was Force of Vigor. I spent, like, when Leovold resolved, I was like, I'm going to have to give him a card to answer this thing. But at all points, it was like, well, Force of Vigor, collapsing my draw engine or my mana engine or unlocking 1 or 2 of your permanents that I
Hmm.
laid away earlier.
Yeah.
There's just so many good targets for that, especially after board. And I was more worried about Force of Vigor for sure.
Okay, that seems solid. That's what it felt from my end too. It's like this felt a little bit more impactful. Just like killing carpet is so big. Although Leovold is really good against carpet too,
Right.
because of the draw triggers.
Right. And then I guess it
Yeah.
becomes the question of like, would you rather fill up your hand or functionally empty mine? Because I can't play the game versus you get more options in your game.
Hmm.
And I think, like, as far as your metaphor of trying to keep the cup from spilling over, it's
Yeah,
more important to empty my cup than it is to fill up yours.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that was all I got then. I like once again, thank you for the testing. I hope you got some stuff out of it. I know I definitely got a lot of uh,
I did.
knowledge and experience. Yeah. So
Yeah. This was really good for me. Great idea. I hope the audience likes this. It's a little slower, a little more intense. I imagine that the legacy diehards will love this, and the casual
yeah.
YouTube scrollers will hate it. But
Yeah.
I think this is good stuff. I like having stuff like this on the channel, and this was a lot of fun and very helpful. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you too.
Pokemoki has left us. It's just us now, and I'm just going to do a quick sign off here. We've just been talking for a long time. You don't need to hear me debrief all of it, but this did feel like it was trying to do too much with the mana base. I identified it in the deck tech, and then Pokemoki brought it up independently in one of our debriefs. Just 2 basics, Mystic Sanctuary and Wasteland in your 5-color deck. Are you just hoping that you literally never pair into a Wasteland or never pair into a Blood Moon? This was a tough spread of mana to make work. The one of Teferi, this is a card I've been low on for quite some time in Legacy, and it's just a weird card to have one of. This seems like something you do when you have a slot in your deck and you're like, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to beat. why don't you just, put a Teferi in there? I don't think I drew it once and it got thought seized away. So, didn't really get a chance to show up, never ported it out, only looked at the picture once, never cast it. So we won't know the impact of the game. The main deck Terminus, this is something that people have been asking me about in my 4-color Cath Beans deck and other stuff. They're like, why don't you play some sweepers? Terminus would seem good here. It's like, we just played against a low to the ground creature deck, and Terminus was not good there. Obviously, that doesn't cover the whole format. It's much better against decks that don't have their own draw engines that just find all their creatures again. But Terminus, it got to the point where I was actually just boarding it out. And this is a huge lean in the direction of I'm going to play against exactly Delver, like Rug Delver, for the entire tournament and nothing else. It's probably reasonable versus initiative, I guess. But sometimes it's just in your hand, or you miracle it when you have the only creature in play or whatever. And this was rotting in my hand more than I ever successfully cast it for any reason. I am unlikely to play this deck in Eternal Weekend after this session. I am a believer in Uro still. Maybe there's a 3-color deck that leans on the ring rather than up the Beanstalk, and then you don't have to do weird stuff with your mana. Pokemoki 75 is available to me. Maybe I'll just end up on that if I can't solve it myself. And it is not out of my thought process at this point to just get a few reps with a combo deck and try to send that. Cephalid Breakfast remains in my wheelhouse. And the Tony Scaponi Mono Blue PO deck, I 5-0'd with that on my first try. It felt really good. I've only played 5 matches of my life with it, but Tony's over there winning legacy challenges and stuff, and his channel's there. That's a great resource. I'm not going to play anything like Storm or Reanimator or Doomsday. Those are out of my wheelhouse and or not good enough for what I want to be doing, but a blue combo deck with Force of Will that I can understand, or a leaner control deck are probably where I'm going to land. Everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of deep dive into exactly one matchup, looking at the testing process between 2 strong players, let me know. Vote with your like button and your comments. I appreciate you being here this long. A lot more talking, a lot less gameplay than normal. Thanks for watching, though. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, check out the Patreon, and I'll see you next time.